Welcome to the NFL Players Second Acts podcast. I'm Peanut Tillman, and I got my guy Roman Harper with me. What's going on, Rome?
Oh man, I'm living my dream up here in Chicago. My wife has a marathon coming up, our first as a family. So we're not subbing in. She's doing all of it by herself. So I'm looking forward to cheering her on, brother. It's going to be a great time. And I got work in between. It's good though.
All right, it's cool. Yeah. So the NFL Second Players Acts podcast. This show is about players and their post NFL careers and what they're doing right now. And today we have a very special guest. This guy played 13 years in NFL, played in 2 Super Bowls. He's a former All-Pro left tackle. And in 2021, he was inducted to the Philadelphia Eagles Ring of Honor. Y'all show some love for John Runyan. John, what's going on?
It's all good. Another day in the grind, you know what I mean?
Another day in the grind. So you're an interesting player because you retired back in 2009. And unlike Roman and myself, you kind of got into something like really, really, really cool. So when did you know you wanted to get into politics?
It literally fell into my lap. You know, it was one of those things where at the end of the 08 season, my knee kind of fell apart, if you will. And it was a progressive thing. It went from, bursitis to an MCL and then meniscus issues. And it was coming up on the end of my contract. Actually, in 08, playing in Philly, we lost to the Cardinals in the NFC Championship game. And contract expired and I had a knee injury and I was in my mid-30s. I'm like, it's over. And being the competitor that I am, people told me being in your mid-30s, you can't recover from a microfracture surgery in your knee. And I'm like, oh, really? I watched this. And it was really that. So I went through, I had surgery probably end of January, so January of 2009, and started chipping away at that. And, I tried to get back on a couple of clubs early that the 2009 season didn't really pan out. And late September, I got approached by friends of mine that were actually in state government that I've known. Our kids went to school together and all that kind of stuff. And they actually have asked if you have ever considered about running for office. And I'm like, you know what? Never taken a political science course in my life. You guys know, you don't talk politics in the locker room because it just divides people.
No.
Right.
And, and it was just that. Just didn't really have, a political. Frankly, at the time, I wasn't even registered. I ran as a Republican, but I was an independent, and I'm never affiliated with a party or anything. So obviously, if I went on the Republican ticket and, had to go over there and register with them and do that kind of stuff. The odd thing was, so that was in October. I wasn't picked up by a team. And probably right around Election Day, so probably right around this time of year, it was probably 3 or 4 days after Election Day. So basically next week from the point we're talking right now, I committed to it, but I told them, I goes, if I have the opportunity to get on a club and get my 4 games in and get another accredited season.
Oh, yeah.
And we happen to be lucky enough to go to the Super Bowl. I go, I'll be back in late February.
Game the system. I like it. I did the same thing.
So that's really what happened. So it was like the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, someone went down with the San Diego Chargers and I got called. And 2 days later, I fly from New Jersey all the way out to California and I'm out there for 2 months, helping the Chargers do a playoff run. Ultimately ended up losing in the second round of the playoffs that year, but got those 4 games in.
Hey,
hold on, John. So hold on, because I don't think I knew all of this. This is amazing. So first of all, I had the same story where microfracture, mid-30s. Everybody says you can't do it. I didn't do the surgery. Hats off to you for doing the surgery and being able to battle back for that. People don't understand microfracture is literally the worst knee surgery to recover from. So hats off to you for that. But the fact is, what was your campaign like the whole time? I got to know this campaign to where you're like, hey, I'm all in for you guys. Hey, New Jersey all the way. But if I get the call, I'm out of here. Just letting you guys know. How did that conversation kind of go over Were they all in with you, or were they kind of like, come on, John, you got to be here with us? And were you the candidate for them because you got to be the biggest man in the room in every room you step into?
Intimidation all day long. If you don't vote for me, pancake you.
So unfortunately, politics is a dirty, dirty game.
Right.
And, like life and business in general, it's all based on relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So when I decided to run for office, I have zero relationships because I've never run for, school board. I've never run for, local township committee. I've never done anything like that. So I had the only people I knew in the business is because of our kids went to school together.
Right.
And it was just very strange. So you had to build all those allegiances and jump through all those hoops and do all of that kind of stuff. But I think, even today, somewhat, the climate kind of pushes like we need more outsiders. We need people that didn't grow up in the system, that are independent thinkers, that frankly, a lot of times just want to shake the tree.
Right.
You're not just there on cruise control doing the fundraising, that kind of stuff. And you don't have any loyalty to anyone else that's helped you along the way. And it was a struggle. I was fortunate enough at the time when I went through the process. Somehow I garnered the favor of Governor Christie at the time. And he was a huge help in the whole process because he put a bunch of people in their places and said, this is my guy. If you don't like him, I have a problem with you. So that's really what it came down to. And he kind of got it going. But then again, he can do that. So he's believing in you. You still got to go out. You still got to, and it's no different than football. You got to go out and put the time in. You got to put the prep work in. You got to get up in front of people and speak. You got to go shake all the hands and kiss all the babies. And it's a grind. And I'll tell you, it's probably twice as much time as actually preparing to play a football game.
What was like one of the toughest things that you didn't know going into politics? Like you're finally in politics and you go to DC and everything. Like what was one of the things that just shocked you most when you were there? Like, man, I never knew that. Like what was that?
I mean, a lot of it was new. It really took me like, once I got elected and into office, it took me like 9 months to get my bearings.
Okay.
Like what is it's no different than being a rookie anywhere else. You know what I mean? But you think about the totality of, constitutional law, public policy, and all this kind of stuff, something I've never studied in my life.
Right.
So again, what happens? You're only as good as the people you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
So you got to put a team together that has the experience, that, isn't bowing down to the powers that be, if you will. And, and they're free thinkers. And I was fortunate enough that I found those people, believe it or not. My chief of staff, I actually found through a connection I had at WIP Sports Talk Radio in Philadelphia. He used to be the press secretary in an office where she was the chief of staff, and I ended up hiring her. It was the best thing ever. I mean,
right.
Talk about an oddity, a relationship I had through playing for the Eagles and doing the player show on the radio. The guy introduced me to my future chief of staff. So it was just like one of those amazing things. And it was a challenge, but the big thing I think is, you sit there and people that are successful are frankly, they look inward, very self-reflective, very honest about who they are and what they are. And you go through the whole process and you're like, man, how the hell did I get elected?
I wanted to know that. That's what I really wanted to know that.
I want to know, was there any hazing? Do politicians haze the freshman politicians? Do y'all like make them write extra speeches for y'all, or like what?
Make them take you out to dinner?
Run up the tab.
There wasn't a lot of hazing at all. I mean, but it's no different than being on a team too. Like you all have your cliques, so all of us rookies kind of hung out together. You know what I mean? And the veterans and the old heads did their own thing, and it was just different. But I'll tell you, go back to that comment. It's like how the heck did I get elected? And then you start watching people around you, and I'm like, oh my God, like, how did that guy get elected? And he's been here 20 years. It's just like, whoa. So it's just one of those things. It's like, and it's no different. I mean, when you look at the broad stroke of stuff that you can accomplish, at the federal level and all the different things you touch, you can't touch it all. You got to pick a couple niches. I was fortunate enough. I got assigned to the Armed Services Committee. So our military base here in New Jersey is the second largest employer in the state. I was chairman of the subcommittee in the Veterans Administration, and I was also on the Natural Resources Committee, which we have one of the top fisheries in the whole country here off the coast of New Jersey. So it was things that were very, very relevant to my constituency, and it was something it was passionate about. And, you guys know this, when you're dealing with veterans and active military, we have a lot more in common than many people think. They do,
sure.
and all of that kind of stuff. So it was a really natural fit for me, not only from a constituency standpoint, but from a teamwork and motivational standpoint to be around all those type of people.
Do you get to pick those committees that you want to be on, or is it just like someone says, all right, John, you take this one, you take that one, and you're going to be the chairman of this one?
Well, you kind of have a wish list, so you kind of rank them 1 through 3.
Oh, okay.
And it was, and typically,
we don't know any of this stuff. All this is brand new to us too.
And typically you're only on two committees, which every committee has 2 to 4 subcommittees within that committee. So I originally, Armed Services was my number 1, then Natural Resources number 2, and then the Veterans Administration was number 3. And the leadership of the party actually assigns you to those committees, and they try to give you what you ask for. And they gave me Armed Services and Natural Resources. Well, probably, was it early December after I got elected, so you don't get sworn in until January. And leadership came to me and said, hey, would you mind taking on a 3rd committee? And I'm like, what is that? And they said, the Veterans Administration. I goes, by all means. And then once I got elected, about 3 days after we got sworn in, I get a call from the chairman of the VA committee, who was Jeff Miller out of Florida. He says, I'd like you to chair one of my subcommittees as a freshman. And I'm like, I can't say no to that, because if I plan on making this a long-term career, that no may turn into no offers for the rest of the career.
Right.
So, I had to jump on it, and I enjoyed it. It was a lot of hard work, but that, sharing that kind of stuff takes time away from everything else, because you're way more involved in it and got to be way more up to speed than you were if you were just sitting on the committee dealing with what you thought your niche was,
So with all of the committees that you were on, with your time in Congress, what's the one thing that you're most proud of? Like your greatest accomplishment in Congress? Like what's that one thing?
I would say this, and I still get it to this day. You'd be, on a Saturday or Sunday morning walk, you're walking down the street. I still get people to pull over and say, you helped my brother out with all this Veterans Administration red tape.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. He was in a really bad place. He's doing so well. That kind of stuff. And I mean, just saying that makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of stuff, because that was the approach I took to the whole process. It was constituent services. It's what a lot of companies lack a lot of time, the customer service aspect of it. A lot of people go into it because they have a desire to be political and drive those agendas and all that. No, I was there to serve, and that's what it was about for me. And frankly, that's what it should be. And I always say that's why it's broken, because it is more about politics than it is service.
All right, John, I got a question though, because we all hear now, like you just mentioned, how politics is so, vindictive. It's so this and that. Were you ever in there, saw somebody get up, say this like crazy speech, all these, very, very active and being the biggest character, and then all of a sudden they come back and be like, oh yeah, I was just putting on for the camera, or they were just putting on. Did you ever see that sense of, man, where did they get all this energy from? That person's not normally like that, either on both sides.
The energy, I don't think, is fake. I think part of the frustrating problem is when you think about, when our forefathers founded this country, where that was true academic debate, where they were off the top of their head. It was deep felt knowledge and passion and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at what we're going through now, it's a script. It's planned, it's read, it's all of that. It's not a lot of like debate and theory and all that kind of stuff. That's the annoying part on it, because you're sitting through it. It's like going to a presentation and someone say, well, I don't want to read this to you. And what happens? They ended up reading the slides to you. And that's what it was like.
Okay. All right. And tell me this. So if anybody has never heard this before, or who maybe has a passion or wants to get into politics, you're saying that you need to run for school board first. That's like the beginner steps of politics, is like school board, very local level stuff, then jumping into the big waters. Or
you don't
Runyan
necessarily
says
have to. I mean, even when I stepped down, the guy that replaced me, he had never been in politics. Yeah, he was a business owner and he brought that acumen to the job. But it was just that. It was like, you got to have somewhat of a passion for it. And, whether it is, unfortunately, a lot of them are driving with, political passion. But, you guys have many, and I'm sure you guys have done it. All of our teammates, you're helping everybody out with their foundation, helping people in the community and all that. When you take that aspect of it, that's how it works. You don't need the experience. I can tell you, when you look at Capitol Hill, what do you have there? You have a bunch of attorneys, and I half jokingly but half seriously say there are a bunch of attorneys that won't make partner in a law firm, so they had to find something else to do. And what did all these attorneys got us to where we're at? We need new visions in there, and that's really that was my approach, and I encourage people to do it. But I also say, I said, be careful, because it is a dirty game. And it'll wear on you, which is part of the reason why I got out of it. I mean, if you guys go and look, I had an op-ed in Politico when I actually stepped down, and I had a football reference in it. And I literally said, there's too many people in this game to get elected to a Pro Bowl than rather win the Super Bowl. An individual accolade versus a team accolade.
Right.
That was really the problem with it, because I've been in front of many groups of my colleagues, and I literally said, I don't care what my political affiliation is. I can vote any way I want to on any piece of legislation, as long as I'm willing to invest the time to go home and explain it to my constituency why I voted that way. And I said, most of you people in this room default to principle, if you will, that you won't vote for certain things. I goes, no, this whole thing is a negotiation. And if you reverse engineer the math that goes into actually passing legislation, it's going to tell you where that policy has to be. And they always default to principle. I goes, no, it's not about principle. It's about doing your job, and then go home and explaining it to people.
So, okay. Yeah. Interesting. So a congressman, well, let me start back. NFL veteran, congressman, and now doing what you do for the NFL. How in the hell did you become an Uber driver? That's pretty interesting, though, right?
He's clearly a service person.
I love it though.
Disclaimer: the NFL HR department didn't like that I was doing that, so I had to step down. But it was really based out of boredom, if you will. So at the time, my two oldest were in college, and my youngest one was still in high school, but she actually plays basketball at Villanova now. But at the time, when in high school, so you're talking about those spring and summer months when AAU basketball is going on. So they'd be traveling all over the country. It'd be her and my wife. And I'm like, I can't pick up and leave the office on a Thursday to drive down to Newport News and hang out there till Tuesday, to watch 5 basketball games. So I was staying home on the weekends by myself. And I'm just sitting there, it's like, so, I'm either going to go hang out with the boys, or I'm going to sit here and feed my face, which neither of them are probably good for you on a regular basis. Like, let's try this Uber thing. And I just set it up, and I would literally sit there on like a Saturday morning watching TV. I'd turn it on, and all of a sudden someone would ping me for a ride, and I'd start driving around. And next thing you knew, it was 1 o'clock in the morning. Like, you didn't even think about it.
There used to be this show called Taxi Cab Confessions. And
Yes.
they were in New York, and it would be a taxi. It was basically like Uber with a camera, but they would have these taxi cab drivers drive around New York and just pick up, passengers along the way. And they would have the most amazing conversations. Some were like you could see coming. Some were just completely blow your mind. What was like one of the greatest conversations you ever had with a passenger?
There were a handful of them. Most of my time, believe it or not, was nervous energy on my part, trying to slouch in my chair so no one tried to figure out who I was. Once people figured it out, because obviously my picture was on the app, and I was using my first name and all that kind of stuff, and they would figure it out. I would always bust on my, living in the Philly area, and you have those Cowboy fans that actually grew up in the Northeast, that kind of stuff. I would always, my go-to line with those guys is like, you had bad parenting your whole life for you to grow up in the Northeast and be a Cowboys fan. Like, you either got to be Giants, Jets, or Eagles kind of deal, what I mean?
Right.
And, it was more locker room banter with a lot of people than it was anything else, just poking fun at them all the time. There wasn't, and they would ask a million questions, but it was a lot of it was football related. Unfortunately, though, after getting out of politics, I kind of had to stay up on both sports and politics because I would get the questions just to have the conversation. So
right.
Try to avoid politics because you never know where somebody's going to come from with all of that stuff. But it was a lot of fun. And you got to meet some people, and to that point though, I tried to get off the road by 11:30 at night, 12 o'clock, so you didn't have to deal with all the people leaving the clubs after hours, because that's a nightmare.
Nothing good comes after midnight. That's what the coaches used to say.
John, I got to know though. Sorry, Peanut. Were you an Uber X driver, Uber XL, Uber Black? Like, what kind of car were you picking up and putting dropping people? I got to know. John Runyan's picking me up in the Uber XL.
You don't look like he was in a Prius.
Yeah. I don't think he's in the regular Uber X. I just don't think he can
take this to another level, and it wasn't the most efficient thing. I was driving a GMC Sierra Duramax crew cab. So a diesel crew cab pickup truck.
Yes. I like it. I like it.
Real deal truck.
Yes. On the East
Coast. I would get that
eh?
comment all the time. It's like, wow, I've never been picked up in a pickup truck for an Uber.
Right?
That's exactly what I would say.
Those things are massive. So how did you so NFL, whatever, they told you they didn't want you to do that anymore. How did you get into the position that you're in right now with the NFL?
It was just one of those scenarios. So, many of, and I know you guys know, but Troy Vincent is the executive vice president of football operations.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I was looking at some other jobs, player engagement jobs around the league at the club level. Mm-hmm. And Troy actually used to run that department at the NFL before he became EVP. So there was one club asked me to write the job description because they didn't have a job description, and I turned it around in about 30 hours. But I sent it to Troy to look over to say, does this kind of fit what you're how you set that department up before you moved on? And he didn't really move on. He's actually above it and oversees it now, but he was running it before, and he only changed a couple words in it. And he goes, by the way, he goes, I might have a position up here for you. And he goes, when's this interview going to happen? I goes, next week. And I'm like, he's like, it's going to take me some time. So don't commit if you don't have to, kind of wink kind of deal. And it was like, needless to say, 9 months went by before Troy actually said, I really think I have a position for you. So again, to go back to the relationship thing, Troy and I played in Philly for quite a few years in the early 2000s. Right. So it was something where we knew each other. And actually, Troy a couple times actually came down when I was in office and talked about team building and leadership skills and all that, and kind of how they transferred over into government and all that stuff. So, we had always kind of been in touch, so it wasn't a big stretch. So, and he knew how I was wired, so it wasn't anything new. And it was just an opportunity I had to jump at, because I'm still in the game, and I'm still shepherding the game for the next generation, and it's a lot of fun. But like anything else, there's a lot of long hours involved in it. But you know what? It's worth doing because it's something I'm passionate about, and I want to see. My son plays for the Packers now, so.
Oh, boo!
I want to be able to, create this game, make this game better, and hopefully at some point maybe my grandson is around and has an opportunity to play in the league.
John, that's a terrible team your son plays for. You know that, right? I'm a long-time Bears guy. That's like the Cowboys. We don't even say Packers on the show. We say that green team.
That's all right.
I say Packers. I don't hate the Packers. I think it's a beautiful place to play. Love the Lambeau Field, the whole nostalgia behind it all. I'm a big Packers guy.
That's because you went to New Orleans and y'all don't really have a rival.
We don't. It's okay. I like the Packers.
The odd thing is, going to the University of Michigan, we actually we had a tally in the weight room. Anytime you walked into the facility with green on, obviously Michigan State.
Right.
They put a tally mark on the board, and that was a 60-yard sprint on the last day of conditioning in the off season. Every time you walked into the facility with green, so green was not allowed in the facility, And then in 2000, I signed with the Eagles. Now I'm wearing green. Now my son's wearing green, so it was something. And he went to Michigan too, where green wasn't allowed. So it's just like we all end up in green at the end of the day.
That's kind of full circle. That's pretty cool. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll come back with some quick hitter questions for John. Y'all stay tuned.
I just want to know, John, you never took a break, bro. You retired. You went straight into this. You've never taken a break.
There was so I got an office in January 15. I started a little business development firm. I was doing, I was making $3,000-$4,000 a month doing it on my own.
Yeah.
And I'm like, do I want to grow this or do I want to do something else? And there was actually a couple openings on WIP on the radio. And I actually went back to that guy and said, hey, I think I want to get back into radio. And he said, okay. He goes, so he put me on the morning team on Monday and Friday. I did the players show, the 2 player shows on Monday night and the Eagles pregame show on the radio. And I did television on Sunday night after the game. But I did that for, that 9 to 10 month period where Troy was kind of dragging his feet. So, but, I got back into that. So that was really the only, and that was my thing to your point.
I was like, that was your
I want some time off to just not do anything, be running around.
So, John, you were drafted in 96, right?
Correct, yeah.
All right. First thing you purchased. What's the first thing you splurged on?
A pickup truck.
Pickup truck. All right. Favorite moment playing in the NFL?
Favorite moment playing in the NFL? The unfortunate part is a lot of the bad ones stick out to you. And unfortunately, again, I think I lost 2 Super Bowls. I think I was more excited, when we, the weird one. So I was playing for the Titans, and we actually beat Jacksonville in the AFC Championship game down there. And they were in the division, so that was the 3rd time we beat them that year. That was probably the best feeling, because the next time we won the NFC Championship in Philly, I just kind of walked off the field. I'm like, hey, we got one more game to win. Let's not get caught up in all this stuff, and let's go do this. So it was probably that first AFC Championship win.
Gotcha. Okay. So your Mount Rushmore, your personal Mount Rushmore. Man, I can't even speak. Your personal Mount Rushmore of people that have been successful in helping you get to where you are right now. Who are those 4 people?
People successful, obviously, my parents. Just spoke to my mother last night, so that's two of them. Both of them. My wife, the stuff she has helped me with. I mean, talk about, that was a big part of going into politics. Hey, I'm not going to be around. You got to be okay with this, and we had three kids and, one in high school and two in junior high and, junior high elementary age. So that was another big one. People, Coach Reed, one of the most supporting, humble, honest people you'll ever meet. You could bounce anything off of him to this day. If I called him right now, he'd pick up on the second ring, and that's a huge part of it. And as far as people that I look up to, and I know he's going to hate this, but Troy Vincent, man. I mean, you watch that guy, leads by example. Can't argue with it. And he doesn't. I probably don't tell him enough how much I appreciate him and how much I respect what he does and how he carries himself. It's just something awesome.
Fill in the blank. My life right now is
awesome. My kids are killing it. I think that's the number one goal. I half jokingly mess with my kids all the time. I said, my goal is to get you off daddy's payroll.
No doubt.
And giving them every opportunity to make themselves successful to get them off of it. So yeah, obviously, my son playing in Green Bay. I got my oldest daughter's in grad school. My youngest daughter's playing basketball at Villanova, and she's in the nursing school. I mean, it's all in front of them. We did a lot for the last 20 years to get them all there. Now it's really on them, and it's exciting to watch.
John, I feel like we can do a whole other podcast on just how to get your kids off the payroll. Like that is a goal of most parents, especially fathers. How do I get these kids off the payroll eventually? You're a great example of that. And a pleasure to have you on today too, man. Just hearing everything, your angles, the way you talk about life, your knowledge and experience of all these different things that you've been able to do and accomplish, man. It's really cool. Nobody really has the experience that you've had that I know of through that's played NFL and been able to do this journey and path, man. You're just a true serviceman. And I grew up watching you with the Eagles all those years, and I just did not know the personality behind the helmet. And this is probably one of the best things that we get to when we get to sit down and talk to you guys, is just really see who you are genuinely as a person outside the helmet, who you have grown up to be as a man. I give a lot of credit to your parents. I can tell you were raised right, and all you've done is just pass the torch on to the next generation. So I appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
I appreciate that. And it's really, many people, I used to say this on the campaign trail all the time. I goes, when you talk about work ethic, people ask where you got it from. My dad was a UAW auto worker, man, blue collar, Flint, Michigan. That's where I grew up. And you talk about a guy working 6-7 days a week, 14 to 16 hours a day. You didn't see him a lot. And when you spent time with him, guess where you were at? You're under the tree in the back working on cars because he wasn't going to send somebody else fix it.
Yeah.
And to be able to have those, be able to work with these things and all of that kind of stuff, but understand what it took to actually support a family and get everybody heading in the right direction is one of the most awesome things that I continually instill in my children and try to share with other people.
Yeah, that's dope. John, I got one more question for you. How important was it for you when you left the game to put that energy into something positive?
You know what? I think your positive outlook on life is really controlled by you. A lot of the influences we have day in and day out, especially when you start messing around with one of these things, it's all negative. It's all negative, and you got to be able to shut it out. I take a kind of a sick, demented twist on humor, with everything online, and try to spin it in a positive or poke fun at people and that kind of stuff. It is really, really hard, but you really have to take a conscious effort to actually day in and day out. When you're having that bad day, there are affirmations you can put in your head that'll change your view of that day in a second. But you have to train yourself to be able to do that and open that book up and read those affirmations. And that is one of the biggest things that I've learned, specifically going through, the agony of the political arena and all that kind of stuff, is to be able to know I'm on this downward trend. I have to step away, open up, look at those affirmations and go, this is why I'm doing this. This is who I am. And these are the people that I care about and love. And I've got to change my view in this moment. Otherwise, it's going to affect everyone else I care about.
Hey, John, you said something right there. I got a follow-up question. So when you were in that arena of politics for so long, the times that you were, what was something that you felt that you just knew you had, but found out it was really your biggest disappointment while you were up there? Something that really almost took you to that dark place. Could you maybe share with us one of your experiences of that moment?
I want to say the one thing that I regret about it, and I did it a few times, but it was forced on me a little bit. And it's the psychology of humans and dealing with people and communicating with people. And I knew it, but I didn't use it to the best of my ability because of my stature. I'm 6'7". At that time, I was probably 310 pounds still. I'm in the 290s now, but of using that presence to actually influence people, I didn't do enough.
Right.
I did it on occasion, but it was something that just the site, and it's not overt, psychology. It's covert psychology. Just your presence of going up and talking to people and trying to get them to come on board with all of that kind of stuff. To the speech I was talking about earlier, is like, you people are lazy. You don't communicate with your constituents. And that's what it was really about. And a lot of people bought into that. That actually got a standing ovation by a lot of people that understood what I was saying, believe it or not. And I didn't do that enough.
Oh, okay. I had to know. You shared so much to us. And, you're talking about those positive affirmations. We learned a lot from you today. Peanut can probably hit you with a quote right now. He has all kinds of affirmations and quotes that he just spits out. And he can tell you when and from who all the time.
Yeah, I had my quote of the day today. What was it? Never ruin a good day by thinking about a bad yesterday.
I like it. I like it. Rome, hit us with a quote. And it can't be from Tupac.
If you ain't first, you're last.
Okay. That's
all
cool.
right, Ricky Bobby.
Ricky Bobby, come on. This is easy. I got to know what the people got. I got to go with what the people know.
I want to go fast. Oh, my God.
You're not first, you're last.
I can't believe you just said that. Oh, my God. Look, John, we appreciate you coming on the show, man. I found out more about you than what I thought. I didn't know, and I appreciate you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your service. And yes, I myself have lost 2 Super Bowls as well, and it still hurts every single day.
Yeah. Those championship rings never come out of the safe. I can tell you that.
No, God, no. People ask you all the time, like, why don't you wear them? I'm like, they're the second place ring. Like, I don't want to wear it. I don't want to. I'm sorry. It's just not. I'm not saying this to talk bad about anyone who got a silver medal in the Olympics. It's not gold. I'm sorry. That's just me. That's just me. That's how I think. I'm super hyper competitive. No disrespect to anyone with a silver medal. I respect it. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all. But it sucks. It definitely sucks.
Agreed.
All right. Well, as the one guy that has a Super Bowl ring on this podcast right now, I'm going to close it out. All right. So appreciate you, John. Thanks, Peanut, as always. Appreciate you turning into the NFL Players Second Act podcast. Don't forget to tell your people about the show and give a rating, a review, and a follow on Apple Podcasts or iPodcasts, iHeart, or wherever else you get your podcasts at. Thank you so much for listening.
Appreciate you, John.
Thanks, guys.